Alright, I'm going to make a part 2 video. This will be unlisted because I got Shiloh in the back. But I already got some good feedback. Plus I got Shiloh making noise in the back. There's Gideon on his phone. Just left church. I figured I'd share this with my content, kind, long-suffering peacemakers. And maybe put it on the Telegram channel because not many people are on there. But unlisted video instead of public like the previous one. Wanted to follow up on a couple things. One is the sanctification aspect. A buddy of mine, internet friend, mentioned adoption and regeneration as additional aspects of salvation. You know, bringing those into justification, sanctification, and glorification. So we got adoption, we got regeneration, and he wasn't too keen on the Trinity aspect that I applied. Yes, sweetheart. When we get back home, we're figuring out where we're gonna go eat.
Can you cut this axolotl?
Sure. I have no idea what that is, but I'll make it happen. So, okay, I'll try. So, listen to this at 1.5x to get through all the distractions. The reason, and I've thought about adding regeneration as kind of like a 4th aspect. Adoption could be a 5th aspect. Totally cool with somebody modifying my framework. Another thing I said is it's just a framework to help Christians realize that salvation is not just justification. And that's how a lot of people see it. Or it's not just glorification. It's not just going to heaven. It's not just not going to hell. I mean, at least when people focus on justification and being free from the penalty of sin, they can recognize that they're saved from God's wrath instead of what old, what's-his-face up at church home in Seattle said, we're saved from ourselves, which is like silly. But there's always like a both and kind of thing, right? I can't remember that guy's name. But I actually went to that church. I was just subscribed for a little while. But unfortunately, he's not not exactly unwoke. And you kind of need to be unwoke, even though if you say not to be woke, you could be called right-wing woke because you're making fun of, because that's the unwoke would be the equivalent of anti-racist, I guess. So anyway, digression, these happen. But fortunately, I'm not being interrupted while I digress. So the adding of regeneration, I would put that, if it was going to be in sequence, I would put probably justification, then adoption, then regeneration, then sanctification, then glorification, and you know, I'm cool with that. However, I like the Trinity concept. I like the parallel with God as Trinity, and God is the one who saves. So similarly, I like understanding human beings as a Trinity. I'm a trichotomous fan. I do agree that a dichotomy manifests, but with respect to spiritual dichotomy or trichotomy, I'm more on the trichotomous side, seeing, no, we're going the right way. We're just going a different way. Seeing man as body, soul, and spirit. And I think that that's helpful. I won't go into it in great detail, but the flesh wars against the spirit. The battleground and the prize for which that battle wages is the soul. And I see a Trinity in the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotions. And so when we love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, I'm low on gas, we are using the Trinity of the Trinity, the body, the soul, and the spirit, and the Trinity of the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotions. So even though it mentions 4 things. So that's another digression, but I think that it's helpful in just acknowledging that certain distinctions exist and certain non-distinctions exist. Because the person who is spiritually dead, the person who is not regenerate, Ephesians 2 type person, who is dead in the trespasses and sins, there is just a dichotomy of soul and flesh, because the spirit's dead. The spirit-filled person is supposed to reckon themselves dead indeed to sin, but alive to Christ, so that they put to death the desires of the flesh. So although the body is alive, the fleshly desires are, through the process of sanctification, put to death. Now we have Shiloh singing in the background. And so this is definitely an unlisted video. But yeah, the mind, will, and the emotions attach themselves to either physical things or spiritual things. So your thoughts are either of God or they're of like whatever idols that you've made up. Your desires are either towards God's desires. We were in Psalm 37 for the sermon this morning. Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. I like the interpretation that says that that infers the desires that your heart has are desires that God has given you.
Daddy, can you scissor this?
I don't think we want to cut that, sweetheart, because it'll make a mess. So, yeah. I think those are helpful distinctions, helpful non-distinctions, and I choose to make a non-distinction between justification and adoption. Anybody who is justified is being adopted, like at the same time, and I choose not to make a distinction between regeneration and sanctification because I see regeneration just as the beginning of the sanctification process. And regeneration could also be seen as a process, or it could be seen as an event that starts the process. So that's how I would kind of weave those two additional aspects of salvation into my framework. But the bottom line is, like, you have to define your terms in any kind of discussion, or that usually devolves into a debate about these things, so that you're not talking past each other, so that you're really engaging with what's going on. So another thing, a distinction between spiritual and physical. One of the things the pastor said this morning, kind of taking shots at prosperity theology, he said the pastor whose name rhymes with bowl, Jostein, Joel Osteen, he said that this whole name it and claim it, blab it and grab it type stuff, where you speak things into existence, he countered by saying that only God speaks things into existence. Yeah, get the pony. Get the fluffy thing out. So and that's true when you're talking just about physical things. So the pastor wasn't really making a distinction between physical and spiritual in this analogy or this example that he was using. But me being kind of the contrarian, I'm like, well, we do speak into existence emotions, thoughts. We speak into existence like desires of people's hearts, the desire to change, that's spoken into existence. So there are a lot of things that, Bible says life and death are in the power of the tongue. Those who are wise will eat of its fruit. And so we could speak into existence somebody's life or somebody's death. There's people that say things that are so harmful that somebody ends up, taking their life. So that's important to recognize. And that spiritual versus physical distinction is good. Yeah, we're gonna get food. I think I'm gonna wrap that up. That's 8 minutes of me just kind of adding. Oh, the eternal security aspect. So sanctification, the sealing, the analogy of Book of Life. I wanted to capture this as well. We're gonna go to Captain D's. Shiloh, is that okay? Get some fish. Well, maybe not. Burger? You want a burger?
No, I
She doesn't want a burger.
She doesn't want anything.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out once I'm finished.
just
So there's a passage in Ephesians and I think Corinthians as well. I can't remember. I took a screenshot of it, but I didn't memorize it to share it with you guys. Maybe I'll put it in the notes of this video. The sealing of the Holy Spirit. So if you imagine a name being written in the Lamb's Book of Life and then being covered with a seal, like, I don't know, Shy, like lacquer, like, think of something being written down in pencil and then covered with like a seal of tape, and so you can't erase. So you can't erase something that has like a seal of tape over it. Wanted to add that for eternal security talks. And apparently we got to find this axolotl. So God bless you if you're able to pay attention throughout this video, and I'll be in touch. Peace.